Hello there. What is up? Hi, how are you? Welcome to my channel, whether you're new here or not. If you aren't new here, you'll notice I haven't been here for kind of a hot minute, and that's because the last time you saw me, it was the senior spring of my college. Blah. Last time you saw me, I was a senior in college, and now I'm a college graduate, and I have like a big girl job and stuff, and I have a routine, and I have some free time, not much, but some, and so I thought that I would start making videos again, maybe. I'm gonna see how many I'm able to put out and how frequently I'm able to film and edit and everything like that, because I do have a big girl job. I do have a lot of responsibilities and things, but I enjoy doing this, so I thought it was kind of fun. Alright, so that's kind of that. I don't know how often my videos are going to be up. I don't know if you care. I'm a plan girl, so it's bothering me. My Stanley is also bothering me. I'm going to move that quickly. I moved it. Okay. The coffee kicked in. It's 4 p.m. 5 p.m. It's too late for coffee. Too late for coffee, but it's a Friday and I got plans tonight. I got things to do. So, the coffee is okay, is what I'm saying. I'm saying I justify the coffee. Wait, this video was going to be a video of all the books that I've read so far this year, and then I sat down to film all the books I read so far this year and realized how little I had to say and how many just like 3-star middle of the road, completely not memorable books I read from January to May. So I've this is gonna be all the books I've read this summer instead. I'm watching Heather McLary. That's what I was doing while I was waiting for my camera to charge. I think the first book I'm going to talk about I read in May, and so I'm going to just talk about all the books I read from May to August, because really from January to May, besides Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I loved. I know you were all incredibly curious about my opinion on Happy Place by Emily Henry, because I haven't rated it on my Goodreads. That's because it's too good to rate. Too significant, too important to me to rate. Other than that, no book left a huge impact on me. And so we're just gonna start with, what date? We'll start with April 17th. Now we can actually start. The first book that I read this summer is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This book is about a girl named Alexis, and she's 38, something like that, and a guy named Daniel. Alexis is this big city doctor. Emergency room doctor. She's Owen Hunt. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, she's the Owen Hunt, I believe. And Daniel, is that his name? Yes, Daniel. I'm terrible with names. I can remember plot lines. Terrible with names. Anyway, Daniel is this guy who owns a bed and breakfast in a small town, like an hour away from, I want to say she lives in Minneapolis? Something like that. I think, yeah. Are those the Twin Cities? What are the Twin Cities? I don't know. Anyway, she lives in a city, he lives in a small town, and her car breaks down one time while she's on her way home from a funeral, and he helps her with her car and like pulls her out of a ditch and then makes her a grilled cheese and all of the things that you want a man to do. And they start this relationship where it's like supposed to be casual because he's younger and they live very different lives. She lives in a city, he lives in a small town, which is a very big, I've mentioned it like 6 times, but like you can tell by the cover, very big deal. And so they are trying to figure out how to make it work despite their differences. And Daniel was an amazing hero. He was so just soft. This book is like almost reverse Grumpy Sunshine. I absolutely loved it. I gave it, I forgot my rating. I think I gave it 4 stars, probably 5. I gave this book 4 stars, probably closer to 4.5, but I don't really do half stars because that gets confusing. But anyway, I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think the third act breakup probably is what frustrated me in this book. Well, I don't know. I just don't think it gave me that 5-star feeling. I don't remember why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 stars, but I do remember I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I've heard a lot of really amazing things about this book, and it lived up to all of the things that I enjoyed about it, or all the things that I had heard about it. This was my first Abby Jimenez book as well, and definitely not my last. It actually already wasn't my last because the next book I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, but these are supposedly from the, I mean, they are from the same series, like they're companion novels, but one of them's bigger than the other, and I ordered them both, like from the same place. Whatever, it's fine. I'm over it. I can face adversity. This book is about Alexis's best friend, Brianna, and she's also a doctor. Her brother, well, her divorce is just it says her divorce is just finalized. Her brother's running out of time to find a kidney donor, and the promotion she wants, oh, that's probably going to the new man doctor who's already registering 80-7 on, they don't get along. So her life is not going very much according to plan. A lot of things are happening, and this guy, what is his name? Why can't I remember his name? It's something Jacob. I knew it was a basic name. Dr. Jacob Maddox has severe like social anxiety, and he's very like self-conscious, and he's not super comfortable in new social situations or new situations at all. And so he just joined this hospital, or he just got hired at this hospital and started working here, and he like very first day has a miscommunication, not a miscommunication, like a run-in with Brianna that gave her the wrong impression, and it was just, this book was so good. It does have a trope that a lot of people have an issue with that I'm not gonna talk about. I didn't mind it. I think based on the situation in this book, it made sense, I guess. Like it worked. I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I think Jacob is what really did it for me. There's just something about a hero that has mental health issues that he is open about, and he talked about his mental health, the way mental health was addressed in this book, the way that Bree was portrayed. I just really connected with her because she's a caretaker for a whole bunch of people, and I loved this book. And I haven't read any more Abby Jimenez books after these 2, and I keep meaning to, and I just haven't. So I feel like the next time I'm in the mood for a traditionally published romance, I will probably pick up an Abby Jimenez book. Then I read Serpent and the Wings of the Night by Carissa Broadbent. This book is huge. It's a big, I have a large head. I have a very large head. Look at the size of this book compared to my large head. It's larger than my large head. This is the first book in a duology, but there's a novella in between, called The Crowns of Nioxia. This book is like if Twilight and the Hunger Games were merged. It's about this girl who, she is a human living in the vampire world, being raised by the vampire king, and she's always wanted to be like the vampire, so she doesn't have to live in fear while living in the vampire world anymore. And the only way for her to get like vampire powers is to win this competition, and then she gets granted a wish from the goddess Nioxia, however you pronounce it's called A Crowns of Nioxia novel, but I don't know how to pronounce the Niox situation. This book was fine. It was really hyped up on TikTok, and I have been in a little bit of like a fantasy-ish mood, so I thought maybe this would be the vibe, and it wasn't. It took me a really long time to get through. I don't know, the romance was a little bit half, like I wasn't super invested. I was half invested in the romance, and I don't know. Here's the thing. I read Hunger Games, loved Hunger Games, but I read the Hunger Games when I was like 13 years old, okay? Almost a decade later. I think that I just don't want to read about any more competitions. I don't want to read about magical competitions. I want to read about magical wars. I like wars. I like magical wars, which is kind of where this book is going for the second one. I think there's a war. There's kind of a war. But I haven't read the second one because I was not that impressed with the first one. So that was, what did I give it? 3? I want to say 3. 3. I gave it 3. Then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I Have seen Catherine Center books around. Never really had a big interest in reading Catherine Center books, but this one, I picked this one up and I started it. I was babysitting, and these kids I was babysitting are like older. They're like 7, 9, and 13 or something. And I just sat and read the whole book while they were playing outside with their little friends. I just sat and read the whole thing cover to cover and gave it 4 stars. It was really, really good. I am not always a huge fan of the one of us is famous trope. I don't know. I read enough Harry Styles fan fiction in middle school. I've read all the scenarios that you can do with that. You're not gonna introduce me to anything new. But even though this didn't really introduce me to any new situations, I still really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's that. I gave it a 4 star. You've probably seen it around. There's not that much to talk about, but I would strongly recommend. Her new book, I've seen like, it's like a book of the month book this month, I think is her new one, and I have zero interest in reading it. And I reread Flawless and Heartless by Elsie Silver in preparation for Reckless. I already had read I read Powerless this year, but I hadn't read Heartless or Flawless yet this year. So I reread both of those in preparation for Reckless to come out. They're both 5-star reads for me. This whole series, spoiler alert, whole series is 5 stars for me. Every single book in the series is a 5-star book. I am obsessed. I don't have a favorite. My favorite changes based on the day and the one I'm reading. My favorite Elsie Silver book is always the one that I'm currently reading or have read most recently. I love Elsie Silver books. Reckless was no different. So Reckless is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Springs 4th book. I am so silly. Reckless is the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver. This book is about Theo Silva, who is the like prodigy, I don't know who I think I am, the prodigy of the bull rider Rhett Eaton in the 1st book in the series. So Rhett's prodigy, and then the female main character in the 1st book named Summer, it's her sister Winter. So it's bull rider prodigy, sister, magical one night stand, boom, baby together. Baby that Theo doesn't meet for 9 months. So then he like comes back to town and he's like, that's a baby. And she said, and Winter said, yeah, that's a baby. That's your baby. And they kind of go from there. I really liked that book, I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was phenomenal. Elsie Silver wrote this book in a way where it's like, yeah, this dad hasn't been involved in his kid's life for the first 9 months, but it isn't a major plot point that infuriates me. We're back. We had to take a little bit of a break because my camera died. My camera battery died. So if the lighting or anything is different, ow! I just pinched myself. If the lighting or anything's different, that is why. Let me see where we were. We were talking about Reckless by Elsie Silver. No. Yes. We're talking about Reckless by Elsie Silver, which I gave 5 stars and have nothing else to say about it. That whole series is perfect. I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this book a 4 stars. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was different than her first 2 books. I think my order of Ali Hazelwood books will go The Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically, and then Love on the Brain. I just really loved The Love Hypothesis. And Love Theoretically, I really liked the male main character. It is about, let me back up. This book is about this girl whose name is, I believe, Elsie, and she works in academia. She's a physicist and academia doesn't pay much. So she has this other job where it's like she's hired to be people's girlfriends or dates to certain events, and one of her most frequent clients, well, yeah, she's like one repeat client. She goes to a job interview at MIT to be a professor there, which would make her money, and she finds out that the person responsible for hiring is the brother of her most frequent client, and the hiring guy is like, you lied to my brother for all this time. And so she has to explain that. He's like, the client is out of town on this like weekend trip, and I think that's so funny. So Sorry, that was a very distracted answer because I got a text in the middle of that answer. But 4 stars. Really liked it. Better than Love on the Brain. Not as good as The Love Hypothesis. Then I read Crimson River, which is the 5th book in the Eden series by Devney Perry. I have sung the praises of Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill, which are the first 2 books in the series, over and over, and the rest of the series is fine. They are fine books. I want to like them more than I do. I gave Crimson River 3 stars, which is what I have given the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book in this series. This book is about the sister Lila. She's one of the members of the Eden family, because the whole book, each sibling gets, or the whole series, each sibling gets a book. And Lila owns a coffee shop. She works all the time, and one day she is pushed out of her coffee shop and by her sisters, and they're like, you need to have a day off. And she decides to spend her day off hiking, which is her first mistake. And she spends this day hiking, and then all of a sudden she's by the river and she's getting choked by a guy she does not know. Not in like a kinky way, in like an I want to murder you way. And so this guy attempts murder, and she files a police report, all this stuff. On the other side of the country, there is a guy who is looking for he's looking for someone. He's a police officer. He is looking for someone from his past who is wanted, and he sees there's like a supposed sighting of this guy in the place, like, and it was Lila's sighting. The guy was the one who choked Lila. So this guy comes and tries to interview Lila and talk to her to try to find the guy from his past. It's good. The ending was weird. It was a weird book. The way that it ended was weird. And I think that the couple was almost trauma bonded, which, I don't know. The couple, they were very much trauma bonded. And so I didn't actually feel that much of a connection with them. They both just like kind of had a common goal, but then beyond that common goal, I didn't see what there was for them to connect about. I didn't see how their personalities would kind of like interact with one another. And that was a huge issue for me. I think Devney Perry tries to make her books too short and include too much in them, because they're always like 320 pages or something like that, and there's like a mystery, and there's romance, and there's like a little 3rd act thing, and it always kind of creates an issue. Not creates an issue, but every part feels half done, I think. So that is how I feel about that. But again, Devney Perry, but like the Devney Perry writing was there. So then I read The Devil Gets His Due by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This is the 4th book in the Devils series. This is the only book in the Devils series that I didn't give 5 stars. I gave this book 4 stars. I've read all 4 books this year, and I have absolutely adored them. And the series just overall is just a companion novel series about people living in Los Angeles. There's like a lawyer, there's a rock star, there's doctors, there's a lot of doctors, and they're not one of those like super interconnected standalone. It's just like characters you meet bits and pieces throughout the series. So the 4th book was a surprise pregnancy trope, and then like a forced proximity trope. And the main character, a lot of the complaints that I've seen about this book, I very much agree with. It's that the main character, the female main character, was very, very immature. And I would agree with that. I didn't really like her at all. I liked the male main character a lot, and I really love Elizabeth O'Rourke's writing. But the female main character she was just super immature. She didn't know what she wanted. I just found her to be very irritating and childish, and I wasn't a fan. But the male main character was just so phenomenal, and I loved him so much that I gave the book 4 stars, and would highly recommend the whole series. So, then I read the series that you've probably seen a million times the past couple of months, The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I feel like everybody's been reading this series recently. I read these books starting in June and into July, and I read a book a day for 4 days in a row. That starts with The Naturals, and then we have Killer Instinct, All In, and then Bad Blood. And my copy of Bad Blood, I don't know if they all do, I think they all do, but my copy of Bad Blood has a little novella in it called 12. And these books are about, they're like young adult criminal minds. So basically, this girl, her name is Cassie, she is a natural profiler. Growing up, her mother was a fortune teller, and so Cassie, by watching her mom and going to her mom's shows and traveling around a lot, she learned how to read people really, really well. And because of that, she is able to profile people really, really well. Her mom is murdered when she is 12 years old, and she spends the next 5 years living with her father's family, but she never really feels like she fits in anywhere. Then one day she gets tracked down by members of the FBI to join this program for like teenagers, to solve cold cases, because they're naturals. So there's two natural profilers, there's a natural liar/lie detector, there's a natural emotions reader, and then there's a girl who's natural at statistics. And they're supposed to be solving cold cases. The cases get real warm real quick, and each book is like a different mystery, but there's also the overarching mystery of like her mother's unsolved murder. So they're phenomenal. All of them were so good. They're so easy to get through. I have been seeking the high that I got from the Natural series for the last month and a half, and I have yet to find it. I have a book that I'm planning to read soon that I'm hoping fills the void, because they put me into such a bad book slump. I'm obsessed. I love them so much. I gave them all between 4 and 5 stars. I think I gave all of them 4 stars except for Killer Instinct, because I love Dean. So, and this is like a very Dean-centric book. So I really, really loved these books. Cannot recommend them enough. I know you've probably seen them everywhere. Keep in mind, I don't like young adult books that much. I find them to be kind of young. They're young adult. It's in the title. But I absolutely loved those books. I did not think they were too young. I thought they were absolutely perfect. And if anyone has any books that can fill the void that The Naturals left for me, please, please, please let me know, because I am deeply upset that I don't have more. Like, I want these to be like a long series. Anyway. Up next, I read The People We Keep by Allison Larkin. This book has had my eye. Someone is weed whacking. Someone is whacking weeds out there right now. It's probably my stepdad, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Sorry if that's irritating. The People We Keep by Allison Larkin. This is about a girl named April in the 1990s. She has a really rough home life as a teenager, and one day after a fight with her dad, she decides that she's just going to leave and she's going to drive around and make her own way. She's a musician and she's going to just find herself, basically. And this book is about all the different places that she ends up. She goes to Ithaca, she goes all around, mostly the East Coast and New England, and she collects people along the way. She makes friends, she has romances, it's really just about a girl in her late teens and early 20s, meeting people, finding herself, and creating a collection of people, The People We Keep. I gave this book 3 stars. I wanted more from it than it gave. I love the premise. I loved the vibes. It was so boring at some parts, and I didn't actually really like April that much. I thought she was fine, but I did think that she was, I don't know, she was kind of selfish. She didn't care. Like, all of these people are helping her and doing nice things for her, and she has all these people and she just up and leaves them. I don't know. Now there's fire alarms, not fire alarms, fire trucks. There's sirens. That's the word I was looking for. You know what? I'm really not meant to film this video, but we persevere. We persevere. People We Keep, 3 stars. It was not giving what I wanted it to give. Then I read Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. I gave this book 2 stars because I really wanted to like it. It's about like foster care and kinship care, and I work in that, and so I really wanted to like it. I really wanted this to be like good representation, and it just wasn't. It's about these 2 people. It's about this guy who wants custody of his 15-year-old brother but does not have the space for him. and then this girl who gets custody of her newborn baby sister, but does not have the money to get approved to be a kinship placement for her sister, or to take care of her sister. So it's about these people who do not have the resources to be kinship parents, but they want to be kinship parents, so they want to take care of these kids. And so they decide that they're going to live together. And she's going to provide him a place to live, and he's going to provide her with money, like financial resources. It didn't work. And like, it could have worked, you could have sold me on it, but I just feel like they were, with forced proximity books, there has to be part of the book, like there has to be a connection with the person beyond just like, oh, we live together. And I just did not feel that. I didn't feel like the characters were connected. They just, like, she would come home and he was there and they would make out, and like that was that. And, you know, sometimes he would take care of her baby sister and she like would swoon. And that's great, but those are all things that come from you living together. There is nothing to convince me otherwise that you guys would be together if you weren't living together. If he wasn't just there, I don't know. I've heard really good things about a more recent book of hers that I want to check out, because I guess like it's like the third book because this is the first book in the next series, and I think the third book in the next series is one that a lot of people are talking about right now. So I want to read the second and third because her writing was really good. I just didn't love the storyline. Then I read 7 Days in June, and I read it in July, and that really bothered me. Bothered me way more than I should. I gave this book a four stars. I'm a little bit late to the game in reading this book, but that's okay. This book is about a single mother who lives in Brooklyn, New York, and writes romance novels and struggles with chronic migraines. And she one day is speaking at this book conference thing, and a very elusive literary fiction writer named Shane Hall walks into the conference and kind of takes over the vibe of the room. And Shane and Eva both know, like, they were introduced to each other, but they both know that they spent 7 days together in Brooklyn in June. 7 days in June together 10 years prior. And well, maybe it was longer than 10 years. Yeah. 15 years prior. And I really liked this book until the end. I absolutely loved the story. I loved the topics that were covered in this book. But the end it felt like half an end. The end felt like half an end. And I'm not saying there needed to be an epilogue. I'm saying there needed to be 5 more pages, because I felt like it was so unresolved. I'm not going to say more than that because, like, it's the end. But this book would have been 5 stars if I liked the end more. Next, I read Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles. This is the first book in the Lost and Found series, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I rated this book 4 stars, but I don't really remember much about it. It's a small town romance, and there's like a mystery element to it because this girl was shot like 10 years ago, and she was dating, so this girl and her high school sweetheart were dating, and she got shot on a night, then because he was like 15 minutes late getting to her house. He gets to her house, finds her shot by 2 of their classmates, and then he leaves for 10 years because he just couldn't handle the guilt. And then, like, he comes back 10 years later and tries to win her back. I just could never, because he left her, like, when she needed him the most. I don't know. I just would never be able to trust him again, personally, and I don't think she should have either. I don't care how big his muscles are. She did, though. She did care, and she talks a lot about it. I have Love Theoretically sitting down here. Could have saved myself some editing, but whatever. Then I read Someone Who Will Love You in All of Your... Not all of your... Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory by Raphael Bob Waksberg. This is a series of short stories. I didn't rate this book because some of the short stories were 1s, some of them were 5, but these are just, it's a tragicomedy short stories. They're bizarre, and some of them are really, really wonderful, and some of them I absolutely just didn't get at all. But I really would recommend this to anybody who is interested in something like this, anybody who likes comedy, anybody who is looking for something a little bit different. Like I said, I didn't rate it because so many of the short stories were on different ends of the spectrum. But, like, the ones at the beginning I didn't like as much, and then I started to get into it, and there were some that I really, really enjoyed. So, I really liked this. I really liked the messages that some of the stories conveyed, and I would recommend it. Oh, I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is kind of like part of my attempt to get the feeling of the Natural series back, because I was like, oh, maybe I'm just in a young adult mood. And not really. This book took me like 2 weeks to finish. It is, I mean, she's big, she's thick, but okay, I'm currently reading the second book in the series, like, as I'm filming this. And is that a chainsaw? I thought I was just in maybe like a young adult mood, and this book was good. I gave it 4 stars, I think. It was good. I had a good time reading it. It took me forever because I just was not compelled to pick it back up once I put it down. I would read a couple chapters, and then I just did not feel compelled to pick it back up again for several days. And I'm kind of having the same issue with the second book. The issue is I love Adrian. The guy in this book, I don't really care about the female main character. Like, the protagonist, I don't really care about her. She is wishy-washy, she doesn't know what she wants, and she has a lot, she needs to go to, like, therapy, okay? But Adrian, the guy in this book, I love him. He is so sweet. He's so sweet, and he's so just on his own little journey situation. Anyway, I liked this book. It's about this girl. It's about this girl named Nova. In this world, there are villains and there are renegades, and renegades are the heroes. And then there are, like I said, villains. And her uncle was anarchists. They're not called villains. They're called anarchists and renegades. Her uncle was the head anarchist before he died 10 years ago, and then she was raised by anarchists, like his anarchist friends, for the rest of her life. Then we have renegades, and she goes out to try out for the renegades to be like a spy for them, and she ends up on a renegades team, and she's like undercover, and she really likes the son of the head renegade, so it's cool. It's fine. And finally, and I'm going a little bit fast because my battery is about to die again because I did not charge it long enough, If We Were Villains by ML Rio. This book was disappointing. I liked it. I really liked where it was going. But I was kind of hoping it would have more of like a thrillery aspect, and it did not. It's about these 7 Shakespearean actors. One of them one night is found dead during their senior year, and it's kind of going through their whole senior year and what happened, and one of them gets accused and is in prison for 10 years, and then he gets out of prison, and this is him telling the story. And you are like kind of led to believe that like what happened is like what everybody thought happened isn't what actually happened, and so they're trying to get like the real story, and the real story was very boring to me. Anyway, these are all of the books that I read this summer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you when I see you.